Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my fabulous channel. It is your favorite expat and wellness coach. I help Black and Brown women move to Asia and build a full life, money, well-being, and community without ever romanticizing it. I've been living abroad for 11 years across several countries, so I know a thing or two about Asia. So this question, you won't want to stick around for this one. I was asked, why living abroad? What has it done for your life? Why 11 years? Talk to me. So I know people talk about, views and food, but the real upside of living abroad is really for me what it does for me spiritually, what it does for my peace, my well-being, my soul, for my mind. And I'm not really saying this from like I'm not trying to make this like a highlight reel. So let me just stick with me, okay? I'm gonna break down what I mean by what I just said. So if you're thinking about moving, or you've already moved and you're in that like, what am I doing phase? Here are the upsides that really matter for me and maybe will matter for you. Actually, not maybe, it will matter for you. Just hold tight. And these are not the cute stuff, but these are impactful stuff, the stuff that changes you. So, firstly, you really learn that you can start over. When you're living in, let's say, the US, there is this ideology that once you do something, like that's it. Like you cannot like backtrack, you can't start again. Once you've committed to something, there's no like recreation. Like once you're an adult, you just do one thing and that's it. And moving abroad teaches you something fast. You can start over as many times as you need. And once you are able to survive that like awkward middle phase, you definitely feel like yourself. I have lived in what, 4 countries now? That's like most people would be like, what's going on, right? I've lived in the UAE, I lived in Shanghai, China, I lived in Bangkok, Thailand, and now I'm in Hong Kong. And then when I was doing my sabbatical, I spent time in Peru and I spent time in Egypt. So your girl has been in places. So I do know a thing about knowing that I have the freedom to start over. No one is sitting and watching me and saying, "Oh my gosh, you're going again." It's not like being home where you kind of feel like you're almost needing to perform for someone, or you feel that someone's going to question your next motives. When you're in an environment where people are constantly changing and recreating, it is actually celebrated. Number two, I would say that money clarity improves. And I'm not in a scary way. I talk about money here and I talk about being smart, but you pay attention about to the things that you spend money on. In the US, a lot of our incentives to have money is generally related more to hoarding and having lots of things. Oftentimes, it is generational wealth, which I am for sure, but a lot of it is in holding and keeping. It's generally not rooted in, can I have an experience? It's not rooted in being intentional. It's like if I have all this money, then I blow it or I buy these big things. Where I find for me that when I'm abroad, I tend to be way more mindful. And this has happened over time, right? I've become more mindful on what I'm spending money on in a way that's quite different. And I will say that it may also be because I've lived in Asia, in a place where most of the countries, especially when I lived in mainland China, like they're not just giving you a credit card like how you can have a credit card in the US, right? So you become like super conscious about like how are you spending money. And then when your basic needs are met abroad, you tend to realize that you're not spending on so many things. When you feel good in your body, when you feel at peace, you spend less. that's just what happens. You definitely spend less. So I know my experience has, and that clarity gives you calm. And also, you're not measuring up your wealth with other people because everyone is just kind of having their basic needs met. So for me, that has been like very impactful. The next one is I would say that my standards, they go up. You think about like what do you tolerate? You think about the food that you eat. You think about how I spend my time. And when you're able to just kind of relax and be, I don't know, you just want more of that. I've found that very simple things like make me really happy. And it's like there's no way to really to phrase it, but it's just that like there's not this, I mean, I'm going in circles. I'm kind of saying similar things. The need and the desire of why you want certain things are not the same like when you're home. I don't know. It just really, and there's a level of contentment that I feel in my body. So yeah. And I would just say nervous system. We always talk about the nervous system. I know when I feel relaxed. I know what I need. Um, I would say that moving abroad does heal you because we are all operating in some type of system, right? We are all operating and have certain things we need to survive. So whether it is inequalities, racism, whether it is sexism, whether, any of these isms, right? And then let's say you poverty, or maybe you're not making the kind of money that you would like, right? There's certain things that you do to survive that. And then also in your body, like you tend to be more tense. But the moment that all of these things are not so in your face, you get to like relax and you get to really just be. There's something different about worrying about walking down the street and like thinking that like, okay, someone's probably gonna rob me, or, thinking something catastrophic is gonna happen. Like this idea of just feeling on edge all the time. I haven't had that experience abroad. Like I feel calmer. And I think as it connects to that, I think being abroad is just the type of learning that you get every day doesn't compare to like just reading about something in the book. Watching how people operate, people's day to day, I do think you grow to have more compassion and more empathy to different cultures and ideologies, and you start to understand people more, which also connects to you understanding yourself more. And for me, I've recognized that I've had to do certain things because that was the only way to like thrive in that system. And in a new system, you may not have to do those same things. And that in itself is like a lot of healing work. It's a lot of adjusting. Um, and it's still ongoing. That's the thing. It is like healing work because it doesn't necessarily end, but you start to have, I think my perspective, excuse me, has widened. Um, I'm less reactive. I'm more accepting to human beings, and I just understand that everyone has their own story. And I know that the story that I was born into and the realities that I had to face has made me who I am, right? And it's more or less knowing when do I need to turn these things on in my day-to-day life. So it's been just like it's still like a very you if anything, if this makes like the most sense, because I'm just like trying to put it into words, it's like it's like you start to realize that like there's so many truths at once, and everyone's truths are generally based on like their life experience and their histories. So it's just a beautiful thing that continues to unfold. Um, I do think that living abroad forces you, not immediately in the beginning, unless you want me to help you, you become quite intentional. So a lot of things that you may do out of habit or you do on purpose, you do more intentionally because being abroad really allows you to know yourself. You get to know, what do you like? What do I dislike? Oh, I was just doing this because I had to versus, I don't really want to do that. You actually feel more liberated to try things. Maybe if you came from a different area, different culture, maybe you would may have not been exposed to a certain thing. So that's another thing too. You're exposed to different things, so you're more open to trying it. So, for example, I never grew up, I know it's big in Jamaica, but growing up in the Bronx, nobody was playing badminton, for example, right? But now, like being in Asia, of course I would go and play badminton. It's just like how I started playing like playing squash, playing pickleball. So you get exposed to things and you realize you may or may not enjoy them, but you learn a different side of you that you would have not had if you weren't like in said country. So you're constantly growing, constantly becoming quite expansive. And I think if anything, and maybe I'm saying it but not being direct, you break, and I want to say you, because the question was about me, right? I've broken the box of like what is possible for me. When you're in the US, especially as a Black man, Black woman, right? There's always like these kind of boxes that we have to live within, or like you do this or you can do this. And you just like, you tear that box down when you're abroad. You start to look at your life in a very expansive, very much in possibilities, like, oh, I get to try this. And it's not out of the lens of, I'm from this neighborhood, I'm this, and like, I only can do this. I think being abroad, as the longer you are, you notice that, oh, let me try that. And you don't have these fillers or the background noise of people telling you what you can try, what you can't. So that's always really, really nice. You start living out of the blocks of like, you don't live in the blackness box. Like, if only black, I need to do A, B, C, or, this is the qualification to be in black. So this is what you do. And living abroad has done that for me in so many ways. It's made me more courageous. And I'm still, after 11 years, still breaking down boxes and breaking down limitations that I inherited or unconsciously like believe about myself. And just like living in Asia, right? Like, you can be Black and want to be in Asia. Like, it's okay. We're here. I want you here. So those are just some of the things that I love. I love how I just feel liberated in my soul. I feel that because I have managed to live abroad for so long in different countries, I definitely feel not only that I can do it, but I can support someone on their journey in living in Asia and doing the things and not and maybe doing it faster, doing it better than I did. Because I do believe that belonging is built and it's not found. And I just want you to just have a bigger world. Okay. I want you to have more perspective, less fear-based living. You see how many ways people get to live and you get to choose yours. You stop thinking, and that's another thing. In the US, I could only speak from the US because that's where I'm from, but there's this idea that there's like one right way to live. Moving abroad breaks that box. There isn't one right way to live. Um, and it has expanded my mind and it's changed my choices. And as I'm in this rebuilding and redesigning of my life, I am just owning what it is that I like, what I want to do, what kind of archives I want to leave, you know? So one day someone's gonna watch this and be like, oh my gosh, the ancestors were all here, just like I want that for you. So yeah, the food is great, the views are cute, but the real upside is honestly who I've become, who you'll become just for making and taking the leap. So if you want the whole life setup plan, the money, well-being, community, please put your name, put your tag me in the comments. And what's the number one thing that you want from your move? Do you want more peace? Do you want more money? Do you want more community? Definitely share. Such a pleasure to be here again.